All right, let's go. Welcome to eCom Raw Reality episode 24. And in this one, we will chat about daily tracking, specifically for eCom and more precisely for paid media. And that is because ads, Meta ads, Google ads, Snapchat ads, TikTok ads, whichever ads you run, unlike email, unlike conversion rate optimization, they don't really take too much time, meaning that they run 24/7. They never sleep. You can't say that there's any moment in the day, in the night when they are not running or making an impact. Depending on how much you actually spend on Meta, for example, if you're spending 1K, 5K, 10K per day, imagine how much attention you have during that 24-hour period, and imagine how much you have every hour, every minute actually sometimes, right? Although fortunately we don't need to stay in front of our computers tracking every minute, every hour. However, it is one of the most important things when it comes to paid media, especially the bigger you are as a brand or as a media buyer, as an agency owner, because the more money you manage, that actually means that you manage more responsibility. That's the main thing, right? It doesn't mean it's actually harder. And just like myself, I'm not necessarily in terms of like media buying skills way above maybe 3 or 4 years ago, meaning that even then probably I could have done similar things to what I'm doing now when it comes specifically to media buying, to looking at ad accounts, optimizing, and so on, right? So the skills haven't changed as much. The overall picture and the blend of skills has changed, which matters a lot as well, because when you're managing paid media, email and other components actually need to be well oiled. If you send 1,000 people and no one buys, that's not ideal. However, it's not the end of the world if some of those people actually sign up for email and then eventually they buy, right? You might actually get an ROI. Maybe not in the short term, maybe not right there and there. However, longer term, you might win. And that's actually the most important part, right? It doesn't matter if you win today, tomorrow, and so on, right? Like we all lose battles, but the most important thing is actually not losing a war, right? Like not losing your business, not losing your life. So the big picture, that's what actually matters. And coming back, right? Daily tracking. So if we are chatting about daily tracking, what is it? How do we do it? And so on. Well, daily tracking means just that you have to look at data at least daily when it comes to ads. Because if you're not, you're just like kind of losing opportunities, right? And I'm using kinda to soften this up. However, the more budget you have, the more you actually disrespect that budget because you're not really looking at it and not optimizing it, meaning that you're kind of wasting money, throwing money out, just losing it, like burning it. That's the best analogy. Putting some of the money that you have on fire. It's definitely not exactly like that, meaning that at least you get some impressions and so on. However, that's why there's a clear difference between someone who's good at media buying, someone who's like mediocre, and someone who's great. It's exactly with like coding. When you have a programmer or software engineer, you have someone who's good, right? They bring a 1x multiplier to your business. You have someone who is 10x that one, right? And then you have another one who's 10x that second one, which means he's not 10x or 20x overall. He's like 100x more effective and brings more value than the first one, the one that brings just 1x, right? So this is where you see that effect of multiplication. The fact that that is how you actually get paid way more, sometimes actually not even that much more, to be honest, because like many people can make six figures, right? And then you have someone who's like 3 or 5 times as valuable to a company out there. However, they are making maybe just 2K, 2 times more, right? So instead of 100K, they make 200K, right? And that's where you actually need to look at your skill set and make sure that you actually optimize it as much as possible so you can actually get a financial gain as well, right? Because you don't want your skills to go to waste. And daily tracking, when it comes to Meta ads, Google ads, and so on, is sometimes just having a sheet. Just having a sheet with the data for every day. Sometimes you might feel it yourself, sometimes someone else might feel it, right? However, someone should be looking over that. And it's super important. I mean, that's the difference between actually having 10 or 20% better improvements in paid media. And for example, this is why I'm pretty confident that I can take almost any brand in the world and I can do a better job for them, right? And it's that confidence speaking, because I know that not many are actually doing this. They are not daily tracking. There are some that are daily tracking, right? So in that case, does it mean that probably they are at the same level? Well, from that point of view, yeah. But the thing is that when you actually do daily tracking, it's not just the daily tracking that you do. After that, you also try to see what changes from day to day. And because you have a faster feedback loop there when it comes to, all right, I made this change, this happened. I made this change, this happened, right? It's just like weighing yourself. If you weigh yourself 12 times a year, so once a month, what are the chances that you'll have a better weight loss journey versus weighing yourself daily? Because if you weigh yourself daily, even though it's not ideal, because there are fluctuations, especially for women and even for men, it depends on so many factors. However, if you look at it day by day and are always trying to make sure that you're on the right trajectory, then it's very unlikely for you to lose. So this is one way to think about it if you want to win. And I'm using this word, losing and winning, just because they are easy to understand, right? We all lose. For example, even with paid media, you look at the data, right? You have a bunch of days where you don't really make the ROAS that you would want to have, but is it actually your fault? Because this is where daily tracking comes into place. You look at the data in platform, right? You also look at Shopify. What does it say, right? And if you have way too many days, then of course you can actually see it in the data. Is it just the ROAS? Is it the cost per click? Is it the click-through rate? And this is underrated because you can make adjustments pretty quickly on paid media, especially on Meta, every day, more or less. I wouldn't suggest every day, because if you do changes every day, it's probably because you didn't get the right structure in place and so on. However, this is what it requires if you want to be the best at something, right? Or not necessarily the best, but just being good at it. Because it's super easy to actually get some budgets up and down on a campaign, right? Or even starting a campaign. It's such a low value skill nowadays that one of the most important things is actually looking at the data daily, trying to make adjustments daily, and that's where you get 10x differences of overall, right? That's why if I see an account that's spending 50K or 100K, which is not a lot in eCom, if I see an account like that, usually I can save that brand around 5K, maybe 10K, sometimes easily, or at least use it in a better way, in such a way that actually they make more money, right? And if you make, let's say, 2.5 ROAS, or let's say even a 2 ROAS, right? If you get a 10% improvement on your revenue, that means 10K more revenue. And that doesn't mean just revenue. It means more customers, more customers that can buy again in the future. So higher lifetime value and so on. There are a lot of benefits that are coming in here. And one of those super important skills, this probably applies to everything, but just being consistent daily, because this is what this is about actually. Daily tracking means you are consistent with tracking data that helps you make better decisions. So AI can really do this for you. I mean, if you're not taking the time to look at data and understand it yourself, I mean, you can feed the daily data to ChatGPT, for example, and it will help you, but you are still the one who needs to feed the data, and then ask it, and then take some action regarding that, right? So that's why paid media management will never really go away because you actually need someone who has years of experience, a bunch of data points. And that's why, for example, I'm not even near Elon Musk in terms of how much we earn per like second or per hour, right? Because he just has a much broader view of everything, right? So we need to know our level and just make sure that we always grow. And from what I'm seeing, we're already over slightly 10 minutes here. So I would say that's pretty much it. As a wrap up, what I would say is that, especially for paid media, one of the best things that anyone can do is looking at data as often as possible, not necessarily every minute or every hour, right? We don't have to go into extremes, but daily is a good cadence, and then trying to make adjustments if necessary. It doesn't mean you have to make the changes daily, because sometimes you are going in the right direction. That's when you wouldn't want to make any changes. But if you're not going in the right direction, then ideally you do make changes. And that's what pilots do as well. That's why the safety for flights is higher than for cars, because of all the adjustments that are being made continuously, and also because of all the preparation, basically. So this is pretty much everything for today. If you enjoyed it, as always, you can leave a like, and until next time, peace out.